Some of you know the story, um, or have heard different stories about my parents and how they've now both passed away. But it was not that long ago that they were both struggling with multiple diagnoses. They both had dementia, and there was a period of time where there were multiple hospitalizations. We were trying to move them into memory care facilities so they could get the support that they needed. One of them wasn't working out for my dad. He was falling, he had neuropathy. It was just like, um, it was so much to manage, both on the logistics level of, getting appointments taken care of, making phone calls, insurance, selling a house, and then the emotional stress of watching a rapid decline happen in both of my parents in very different ways. And so I was visiting, and I remember on one of my trips sort of being aware that like my reactivity was beginning to kind of amp up. I was noticing, well, I had thrown on my back. I was seeing myself choose different foods, much richer and heavier foods than I usually want on any regular basis. I saw my sleep change, my caffeine. I was like using, wanting to have a lot more coffee in the morning and using kind of caffeine to sort of wake up. Um, there's lots of things happening, but it wasn't until I noticed, like, sort of like the emotional piece, that I was like, okay, I'm not okay. may have may have been that like anybody else could have watched me and it would have been obvious to them, but I felt like I was sort of like, managing things. Anyways, what happened was, there was one day where I drove to this facility where my parents lived, and I was sort of scolded by this guy that worked there for using the wrong door. And he's like, we need you to use the front door so that you can sign in. And I heard myself snarl at him. I'm like, I'm walking over to sign in right now. And he's like, well, thank you. We appreciate that. But really, it's, our policy is that all guests come in and out the front door and don't use the side door. And I felt myself just like, I was like, there was no parking by the front door. The parking was by that door. So that's the one I'm going to use. And I saw his eyes go wide before I noticed that, like, I was hot and my eyebrows were raised, like, my heart rate was up. And so sometimes, like with reactivity, you catch yourself like getting flooded and dysregulated physiologically before you notice the rest. In this case, it was like I kind of think I caught the fact that like I'm yelling at this nice man. I remember thinking like, who am I right now? Oh my gosh. And so I went ahead and I went and signed in. And and then I stopped and was like, I need to just take a minute here. Wow, all worked up. And I went and I sat down and just tried to breathe a little bit just to kind of like support my body. But then in terms of self-empathy, it was something like, yeah, like this is an enormous amount. You're stressed. This is a lot to just like handle at the very practical level, let alone emotionally. And it all matters, like the health of your parents, their well being. They don't really have agency. So, okay. And I care about like supporting their agency. Oh, I'm trying to find good situations for them. I want them to be safe. That's all motivating this. And yet underneath it, there's like devastation. Like this is heartbreaking. I'm sad, you know, underneath all of this kind of like agitation and frustration and stress. And Yeah, and yet I need a little bit of ease somewhere, and so I don't wanna go into the sadness. I'm not ready to go and do some mourning, even though I can feel like I desperately need it. On the other hand, uh, what do I want right now? Yeah, I wanna take care of this thing, that thing, get the medication set up, whatever it was that day, you know? And so, and so just in a couple of minutes, I was tracking, here are the feelings and needs up for me and which ones in that moment I wanted to prioritize. So, and it helped because it's also like, all right, there's some grief and mourning here that I keep putting off, and that's having an impact, and I can think about that and make my choices as mindfully as I can moving forward. And so I think I actually took the next day off. I went ahead and was like, all right, once a couple of things are in place, I can maybe do some self care. And even if I don't decide to go into something that might be exhausting, um, like really feeling all of my feelings tomorrow and processing, some tears, whatever, I at least was able to sort of like decompress rather than just keeping on with the go, go, go. Right. So that's what it looked like for me. And I do try to catch myself earlier, but what are you gonna do, right? Sometimes sometimes life gets ahead of you and for me as well. So I hope you found this helpful. Just a little glimpse into me and how it shows up in my world. And if you would like to catch more of the videos as they come, please press subscribe or sign up at consciouscommunication.co. That's right, co, not com, for sign up for more videos, and we'll keep them coming. Thanks so much, everybody.